This show is brought to you by Dream Digital Art, the place to buy the coolest Jewish and Israel-related art pieces and products. As a Shmoozin podcast fan, you'll get 10% off your online order with the promo code shmooze10. Now, let's get on with the show. We're going to get to the fact that you're an Aliyah consultant, which, having made Aliyah, I didn't know such a thing existed, but we're going to come back to that in a sec. What I want to get to first is your background, where you're from, and also when you made Aliyah and why you made Aliyah. That's really the start, and then we'll move into like what you do, because an Aliyah consultant just sounds so groovy. Okay. But we'll get to that in a sec. So from the beginning.
Okay, so I'm sure, as you can hear by my accent, I'm a Cockney.
Yeah,
I was born in Barking.
Great.
And from Barking we moved to Ilford. Okay. Where my family are still in Ilford.
Which, to those who are not from England, is northeast London, basically.
Yeah. I think it comes with an Essex postcode.
That's right.
But yes, and then I moved later on when we got married to Hendon, and we made Aliyah from Hendon. Born into a traditional United Synagogue family. My parents were not observant, but traditional.
Right. United Synagogue. Yeah.
United Synagogue.
Yeah. But there was Shabbat in your life?
So there was Shabbat-ish. I would go to shul in the morning and end up at Upton Park in the afternoon. Right. Where as a child, in my naive days, I did have a season ticket for West Ham. Okay. Since moved on, and now a proud Southend United supporter, but that's another story. Right. So my grandfather was the life president of Barking and Becontree Shul. Mm-hmm. So I would go in the mornings, I would get dropped off. My father would work at the weekends, so I would get dropped off at my grandparents. I would go to shul with my grandfather, and then I would be picked up, and we'd go to football in the afternoon. Okay. So I had Shabbat, I had shul in my life. When I started to learn for my bar mitzvah, my bar mitzvah teacher was probably the most inspirational person.
That's amazing
that I've met.
Wow.
It was
even.
Yeah, I would say even until now. I mean, there's an amazing story. It was the Chazan's son. Right. It was Lennon Faye Sober, who was the Chazan of the community. Their son was Alan Sober. Mm-hmm. He was involved in the youth service. He was involved in Bnei Akiva, and he taught me my bar mitzvah. He actually made Aliyah about 6 months before my bar mitzvah, and unfortunately he was killed on the Lebanese border, right, which is another story. And then I sort of took it upon myself to very much follow in his footsteps. I got involved in youth minyanim, I got involved in Bnei Akiva. I also taught bar mitzvah, and sort of it was very much a mirror image of sort of the life that he showed me. And a lot of the things I do now is very much in the suchut of Alan Sober. He was an unbelievable.
That's an amazing story. So was he killed when you were still in England?
Yes, he was killed before my bar mitzvah. He sort of around the time of my bar mitzvah. And that was the first Levaya I'd ever been to. They actually flew his body back to Southend, because his parents had moved from Ilford to Southend, where they were the chazan and of that community.
Well, that must have affected you. Like
it was unreal. It was first of all, it was a military funeral, so the coffin was draped in an Israeli flag. They had army personnel in uniform. I was a 13, 14-year-old kid at the time. Wow. They did a gun salute over the coffin. I mean, this was in Southend, and this is his first funeral. I assume that was the norm. What did I know?
Wow. That's some story.
Yeah. But
he was so he was really an ignition and a real motivating force.
Yes.
For Israel.
For Aliyah, for Israel, for the love of and appreciation of the country, and also for my journey religiously. Because from there I became Shomrei Shabbat. As I got involved in the youth minyanim. I was Rosh of Ilford Bnei Akiva, and it changed my life.
Wow. So when did you then make Aliyah? I mean, we're trying to compress everything, because obviously there's marriage and all that.
So I got married. We had 3 kids. I think the turning point, in England, the turning point, as Ayala, my wife, reminds me, is that we sat down and did a will in the UK. And one of the questions was, where do you want to be buried? Now, at the time, I was the 𝗗𝗄 𝗡𝗘 So we had United Synagogue membership and everyone was being buried at 𝗗𝗃. So I said, I guess 𝗗𝗃. And Ayala looked at me and she says, there's no way we are going to be buried in this country.
Wow, nice. Did that shock you?
So it was sort of, look, it was a realization. I grew up in Bnei Akiva. Aliyah was always on the cards. It was just a matter of when. In fact, when we told my parents that we were going to be making Aliyah, my mother turned around and said, I always knew you were going to be making Aliyah. I just didn't know when.
Right.
So it was sort of a realization that, you know, Aliyah was going to happen. We were at the stage where our eldest was 12 or 11 at the time. We actually made Aliyah on her bat mitzvah. We left England when she was 11. We landed in Israel when she was 12.
Wow, so
we
beautiful.
had her bat mitzvah on the plane. It was
Whoa.
really incredible. And I must tell you, if you want to do a simcha on a budget, make Aliyah. You don't need to pay for the venue. You don't need to pay for the catering. It was amazing. So we had an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 5-year-old. So Eliana,
interesting spread of age for Aliyah.
Right.
We'll get to that.
Yes.
I'm sure in the conversation.
So it was a bit of that was the reason why we decided on Hanukkah and came in the summer, because Eliana, my eldest, was at the age where it was sort of cut off. She just started secondary school in the UK.
Right.
Israel is a year behind academically. In the UK, they start at the age of 5. Here, we start 𝗗𝗘 at the age of 6. So we had that window that if we made Aliyah that summer, she would be restarting secondary school here in Israel.
How did the kids feel at their different ages about we're doing the Israel journey thing? We're making Aliyah.
So we were very fortunate. We were living in Hendon and the kids went to the independent Jewish day school, which is one of the only day schools, primary schools that has ivrit b'ivrit. So their whole education at the school is very much to appreciate and love the Medina.
Right, it's very 𝗗𝗃.
It's very 𝗗𝗃. So they were actually very excited. Now we thought Eliana would actually take the longest to learn the language because she was the eldest. She actually took to it really quickly.
Wow.
Within 6 months, she was fluent. Again, they had a foundation. We didn't know how good that foundation was until we were here, but by the time they did summer ulpan and the ulpan that the area put on, they really did master the language.
All right, so you arrived. That's your story. You moved to Modiin. We can compress that story. You told me a little bit about, did you know where you were going to live when you came, or it was just like fly by the seat of your pants?
So now being involved in Aliyah for the last 15 years, I realized that we actually knew nothing when we came. Had no job lined up. We didn't know where we were going to live.
That's probably been beneficial for what you do now. To do it the wrong way,
right?
And to learn,
right. Yes, the hard way, which is what I now with my Aliyah consultancy business is what I don't want other people to have to go through.
Right.
So I'll be honest, we didn't have the most amazing pre-Aliyah experience in the UK. And this was one of the stories of how I ended up getting into Nefesh B'Nefesh.
Right.
Because there wasn't so much attention to detail for the UK. It was sort of very much Americanized. Right. The Aliyah advisors that came didn't really know the UK market, didn't know the education system, didn't know the tax system, didn't know the healthcare system, or the welfare system.
Right.
So
this is 2008.
This is 2000, beginning of 2008.
Yeah. So I made Aliyah in 2009, and I relate to what you're saying. It felt American. You were already in Nefesh B'Nefesh.
So I started in January of 2009, and my first trip to the UK was in March of 2009.
That's when we made Aliyah, in March. But I knew your name. Right. I think we'd had some correspondence, but Nefesh B'Nefesh felt a little bit American.
Right.
But I think, funny enough, your presence there, because I interacted with you a bit, was like, oh, there's a Londoner.
First of all, there's a Londoner. There's a continuity.
Yeah.
It was the same person. It wasn't a different person every time. So you're able to build up a rapport.
That's right.
With that person.
All right. So you ended up at Nefesh B'Nefesh.
So I ended up with Nefesh, who really did change.
Yeah, for sure.
The pre-Aliyah experience. I mean, the knowledge and the information and everything that they had was amazing.
From what it was, I imagine, where there was probably had to, really hunt around for to a website, to videos, to all that.
It was very much everybody had to do their own research, and if they were lucky enough to find the information, great. Nefesh really did pull all that together and put it very easily in one site, which was amazing.
So now you're an Aliyah consultant. So let's try and understand what that is. What do you do? What's the role? Is this a role that you created, or is this something that has existed for a while? Other people do it. What made you go down this road? Because you're an independent Aliyah consultant. You're not at Nefesh B'Nefesh.
I'm not at Nefesh. Nefesh pulled out of the UK about 6-7 years ago. So besides the Sochnut, the Jewish agency, there is no one in the UK that is helping people facilitate their Aliyah.
Okay.
There is nobody that will sit with you, that will hold your hand, will listen to you, will decide how they can help you, guide you in the right way. Us Brits, we're very fortunate. We're what I call frequent visitors to Israel.
Proximity helps.
Yes, it really does. You know, the last trip back to Israel I was on, it was 3 hours, 55 minutes.
That's quick.
That's very quick.
Right.
Obviously, nice tailwind. But it's not far. People come for Chagim, people come for long weekends, for Samachot. You can't do that from North America. You can't do that from Australia. You can't do that from South Africa, but you can do it from the UK. So we sort of know Israel, or we feel we know Israel a lot more than we actually do.
Right.
So when you come to that decision of making Aliyah, you don't necessarily know how much information or how much help you need. Right. But there is a lot of help. The one that, for instance, I met a lovely older couple last week. She was born in Israel. She has an Israeli passport.
Where, here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I met them in Israel. She was born in Israel. She has an Israeli passport. She left with her family at a young age and went to Canada. From Canada, they went to America. Now she's married and lives in the UK. She thinks she's straightforward. Why not? She has an Israeli passport. She's a returning citizen. What does she need to do to make Aliyah? Nothing. Not the case. Because she left before the age of 14, she's considered a 𝗓𝗘𝗦𝗧 𝗓𝗃, a returning minor, which means she needs to do the Aliyah application process. Because she lived in America, she needs background checks from America. Because she lived in Canada, she needs background checks from Canada. Because she's living in the UK, she needs background checks from the UK. Now I was able to sit with them and go through everything and to help them make their Aliyah easier, because they have a point-by-point, step-by-step guide as to what they need to do in order to make that happen, rather than assuming she doesn't need to do anything, getting towards when they want to come and finding out that they need to do everything can be very stressful, very time-consuming. So this way I'm able to sit with them and help them and guide them accordingly.
What made you think, you know what, I think there's a market? We'll go into your model of how you're going to do it, but what made you think, do you know what, it's not just about me being at Nefesh B'Nefesh. You've explained that Britain, the UK, is not really on their, well, it's not on their roadmap at the moment.
That's right.
So what made you think, okay, I can do this?
Okay, so I was at Nefesh for 15 years. Amazing 15 years, great organization. I was 55 and I realized that if I wanted a change in direction and a change in profession, I needed to do it now before I aged myself out of the market. So I left Nefesh last June and I had a clean sheet of paper. My middle daughter was expecting her third child at the time. I hadn't seen my parents for quite a while and they were not getting any younger. So I decided to leave and take a bit of me time. And I booked a trip to go and see my parents. And I was there for a week. And ironically or whatever, during the couple of weeks before I was going, I would have phone calls. People from the UK that are looking to make Aliyah. And I said, look, I'm no longer involved in Aliyah. But you know what? I'm coming to England in a couple of weeks' time. Let me come and sit with you. And let me see how I can help you. Now, I was unemployed. I wasn't working for anybody.
Complete freebie. Chesed all the way.
Complete freebie, because I'm passionate about how I can help people make Aliyah.
Right.
And then I thought, I've got 5 meetings whilst I'm in England, just by chance. Not advertising, 𝗓𝗃 𝗡𝗪𝗓,
right.
So I thought there's obviously a demand. People aren't getting the information they need, or there isn't the information out there. Remember, I was sort of a household name in the UK when it came to Aliyah.
For sure.
Because of my 15 years experience. So I thought after those 5 meetings, there must be something I can do on a more formal basis to help people from the UK. And that's really how I set up my independent Aliyah consultancy business, was purely based on that week's trip to England.
It revealed itself. What's your business called?
Make Aliyah easy.
Does what it says on the
Because
tin.
it really does what it says. Now, it's not that I'm going to change the world. I'm not going to change the bureaucracy. There's always going to be bureaucracy. But if you know how to navigate that bureaucracy, and you're prepared and you have all your documents in order, then there's no reason why you can't make Aliyah easy.
Right, understand. Aliyah, I'm gonna add to that passion. I'm a big fan of Aliyah. I did it with my wife, and we brought a kid with us who was like 7-8 months old. 2 more kids since then. Every Jew, I hope, will end up fulfilling that amazing dream and mission. This is our home, and if you wanted proof, just have a look at the world right now. Okay. Now, at the same time, I appreciate that everyone cannot just make Aliyah. There's a lot of challenges in people's minds, a lot of misinformation, and a lot of scary anxiety around this huge move. Even if emotively people are like, I do really want to be in Israel. So, what do you do, tachlis? What do you do to make that from the start of the process? Someone meets you, someone hears, Newmark, you spit Nefesh maybe now doing it independent. So what do you do?
Okay, so such a great question. It really is. I think my main role is to help people realize that they can fulfill their dream of making that move. A lot of it is in market research and realistic expectations. And when I sit down with someone and I hear their story, I will be able to guide them and direct them accordingly. Israel is not, it's not easy living in Israel, but I wouldn't live anywhere else.
Absolutely.
It's an amazing country. I live on the corner of Ephraim and Manasseh. It has meaning.
Right.
My father lives in Loudon Avenue.
Doesn't quite have the same rim.
It doesn't have the same thing. You walk down Menachem Begin, you walk down here, you're walking the land. So if I can help someone fulfill their dream and make it easier, then I feel that I've done my job. As you say, there is a lot of misinformation out there. And I think having someone that you can turn to whenever, and again, my job is not a 9-to-5 job.
Right.
I will take a call at 10:30 at night, because if it's important for somebody to call me at 8:30 UK time, it's important for me to answer that call at 10:30 my time.
And it's like what I do as a filmmaker for the last 25 plus years. It's a hobby that's hard work, what I do, but I love it. And so it's never really felt like work, even though it's challenging. It's got a million challenges, but it sounds to me as though you're also doing something similar. It's like your greatest hobby,
right,
is helping people come home. And I imagine, actually, what do you think is the scariest things that you hear? What is it? Do people generally come at you with worry?
So I was actually looking in the car on when I got here about what are the most stressful things in life events. What are the most stressful life events in life? And one of them is moving. Right. Now, if you add moving to another country, moving to a different culture where there's a different language, you multiply that stress level. So
at war.
At war. It's not always going to be.
No, but I mean,
it's a volatile country, and
volatile,
the bottom line is that anybody moving here knows that it's a volatile country. But again, since October the 7th, I have felt a lot safer being in Israel than I have on my trips to the UK. I mean, the fact that my father lives in Ilford and there's Palestinian flags flying from the lampposts doesn't make it any easier.
Right.
But yes, there are challenges. But I think also The concerns the Brits have is slightly different because they're used to Israel and they're familiar, and they also gravitate to the areas that they know and are familiar with.
Which are
the Jerusalems, the Tel Avivs, the Bet Shemeshes, the Modiins, the Renanas. We're not so adventurous. We're not like
typically English.
100%. Because we know the areas and we know people in those areas, we gravitate to those areas. So I think a lot of it is, can they work here? Will they learn the language? How does the health system work? Will they have to compromise? It's the lack of familiarity and knowing that, or reassuring them that there is support here post Aliyah, just as important as the information they're getting pre-Aliyah.
How much does, again, different people at different stages of their life, different ages, different needs will make different concerns come up. But do you find that a lot of people are mainly, they're driven by a desire, a passion, I've got to be there, but they're like, but how do I make that possible? Like, what's the general percentage or whatever of nervousness against excitedness and all that stuff?
Right. I mean, I'm not selling Aliyah. The majority, I would say, if not all the people that come to see me are already on the Aliyah derech. Right. They're already looking to make Aliyah. It's just how, when, and what do I need to do? So I've already made it a little bit easier for me to address their concerns. You're right. If they're 18, they're looking at army, they're looking at university, which I feel is the greatest age to make Aliyah, because by the time you've finished the army, you're fluent in Brit, you've got a network, you're able to take advantage of the free degree that you get in the Israeli universities. And then by the time you finish your degree, you're able to hit the ground running and you've got English as a mother tongue.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So, as far as when is the best time, I think that's the best time.
If you're already like an adult, unless you're like us, we came and we're like, we're going to start a family in Israel.
Right.
It's like,
yeah.
You did it a bit differently because your kids were already had friendship groups, established shuls and schools and Shabbat and all this. That always struck me as a bit tricky. Whereas we made it easy. I said to Rochelle, I'm like, all right, we've had the first one, let's go.
Right.
Let's do it all there. Now, I didn't know what I was walking into, didn't speak the lingo, didn't the culture, wasn't brought up religious. And here we are as a religious family in Jerusalem, and we figured it out. And maybe I'll get on to my challenges in a second, but it was still completely worth it. There's not a day that's gone past that's like, even with all the challenges, because it's funny with me, I always think of the Meraglim, the spies, for those that are not like familiar with the Parsha and the Torah. So there were a group of these people, as we know, they're called the Meraglim, the spies, who spoke badly about the land of Israel. And I found that Parsha always very powerful. And just the simple idea is, you never speak bad about the land of Israel. And having being an oleh and knowing the challenges of making it work here, where you've got every excuse to say, this is just too difficult. You don't. You just say, yeah, it's a challenge. The Torah also tips us off. Israel, it's hard to acquire. But the bottom line is, in bold, underline, it's completely worth it. So, what challenges did you face when you came? Just briefly, a few, like schools, and what did you face?
So schools are challenging. I worked on the basis that it's actually exactly the same syllabus as it is in the UK.
Oh, yeah?
I worked out on the basis that when my kids came home from school in England, I said, what did you learn today, darling? They said, nothing. And they come home from school in Israel. I said, what did you learn today? Nothing. So it's the same syllabus, just in a different language.
Funny.
Schools are somewhat easier here in Israel, I find, because it's done by catchment area, done by religious affiliation.
Yeah.
So, if you're living in Modiin and you're Dati Lumi, you go to the Dati Lumi school in Modiin. So it makes it actually a lot easier.
Pull your socks up and get on with it.
100%. You don't need to put your name down for a Jewish school as soon as you find out that you're pregnant, as you do in the UK.
Right.
And then there's are you going to get in or not? And all the kids in that school are in your catchment area. So you've got your immediate chevra that live on your doorstep. So that was easy. I think.
Can I say, for us, it wasn't so easy.
Okay.
Because me and 𝗚𝗨𝗃 𝗡𝗃, even though she'd already been in Israel basically since 1997 when she came on an age program, and she was jumping around in certain SEMs. She'd been here, she was here 5 years till like early 2000. We got married in 2007. But with us, we hadn't yet truly found our Jewish identity, because we're secular. We were very secular Jews. There was no Shabbat really. There was Jewish.
Right.
I think even less Jewish-y stuff than you.
Right.
I had a bar mitzvah and all that in United Synagogue, so I wasn't Reformed, just United Synagogue. But we didn't know who we were, and we were, like I was saying to someone yesterday on Shabbat, we were brought into religion through the Haredi world, which is completely not who we were. So we had a few years of figuring that out. Even and in the end, we realized that where we fit is the 𝗓𝗘𝗦𝗧 thing, but that took some figuring out.
Right.
So schools for us were a little bit bumpy until we find that thing. So by the third kid, he's into the 𝗓𝗘𝗦𝗧 school in Jerusalem, and he's fine. The other two had a bit of a rocky thing. So that's what I was wondering. But for you, it was.
But you also came with younger, or you had your kids were younger, so there was a little bit of time there. So yes, look, there are obviously exceptions to the rule, and some people, the school doesn't fit their child, and then we've got to outside. But most local municipalities will have a chinuch department, and they will work with you as a family to make sure that they find the best place for your child, because it's in their interest as well that your children don't fail.
Of course. So what other challenges do you feel like? Because you spoke about challenges, we all have them. Bureaucracy. Let's talk about that, because I think people in 𝗗𝗃, they're thinking, okay, so we're going to deal with rude Israelis. That's the thing. Israelis are rude. Not true. Okay. English people are also rude. They're just English rude.
Yes.
It's just rude, right? But I think people are scared by the aggressive culture of Israel, maybe, and they're like, oh, that's very and it is a different culture to England. Let's be fair, right?
But it's also the lack of familiarity. We're familiar with the English culture. We know the English systems.
We know how it works,
and we navigate it.
Yeah.
Here it's all very different. Yes, there is bureaucracy, but as I tell people, it's far easier to make Aliyah than it is to try to get a green card as a Brit.
Right.
You think the bureaucracy here is something, is nothing compared to what you need to do in order to get a green card.
I think the language of the bureaucracy and the kind of expectation maybe that you should just know this stuff in a different language. That was pretty hard to navigate.
But Israel's also come a long way.
It's true.
It has come a long way. If you think about Israel, is a country made up of olim.
Yeah.
You've got Yidden from all around the world that speak multiple languages, and there is a lot of English support. Nowadays, there's a lot of English support. So one should know there is bureaucracy that they will need to tackle when they make Aliyah, but they also need to know that there are ways of there's help out there. There's people that will hold your hand and take you to these meetings and whatever.
Do you do that? Like, what's your post Aliyah service? Do you charge for all this?
Okay, so I don't. And I'm still won't know. I don't charge my services at all.
Right.
The reason is because I want to be able to help everybody and anybody, and I want everybody and anybody to know that if they need help at any stage during their journey, they can contact me without the fear of getting a bill for that one call or for that one meeting or for that piece of information. Okay. So I don't charge my services.
Right.
My business model is that I work with amazing English-speaking service providers
in all the different areas.
That's so for instance, if you need a shipper and you use my shipper, I'll get a commission.
Okay, so you're honest about it.
100%. If you move money from the UK, you use my currency converter, I'll get a commission. And that's how, hopefully, because this is still a new business,
right,
I will make my parnasa.
And you'll make it work.
And I'm completely transparent. They won't charge you any extra, but what they will do is give you a phenomenal service. And I'm very, very keen, or when I chose the different service providers that I I'm going to work with, that they're first of all top of their game. They will go above and beyond what they should do. They're not just out there to do that deal. They're there to help you. They're all olim, the ones that are living in Israel, all olim, know what it's like to make Aliyah, know that the extra help that you need, and will give you that extra help.
Amazing.
So that's the model. So yes, post Aliyah, there's people that I work with that will hold your hand.
You're always at the end of the phone, basically.
Always at the end of the phone.
To have that support, it's basically 5-star Aliyah. I mean, I'm saying it, but
Aliyah on a silver platter, no?
Basically. I
mean, I have to share a story with you. I had a phone call from a family in Sydney, Australia. How did they get hold of me? I don't know. But they heard about me.
But you service just the UK, just to be clear.
In theory.
Okay.
So this family in Sydney.
Right.
She's British. They're living in Australia. She's British. They're making Aliyah. They got married in England. So what they didn't have was her British birth certificate, their civil marriage certificate, or a police background check for her from the UK. And they live in Sydney. How are they going to get it? So they're in touch with me, and I said, fine. My father lives in London. You need to do this, this, and this. Get it sent to my father's address. When I go to London, I will send them off to get the apostille, and then I'll bring them back to Israel with me. They were here for Pesach. I met them Pesach, gave them their documents. They've taken them back to Australia to meet with their shliach to get approved for Aliyah.
What result?
Again,
your dad's involved.
My dad's involved. Yeah, he's my secretary.
Right.
So all of this I can do to help people, whether you're in America or Australia or whatever. And again, I didn't charge them for that service.
Right.
Because I'm just happy to help them with that whole process.
But mainly, just to zone in, you are working in the UK market.
My main focus is pre-Aliyah UK. Obviously, once people are here and they're looking for property in Ramat Bet Shemesh, and they approach me and they put them in contact with my agent.
No matter where they're from.
Wherever they're from. Right. I've got an English-speaking structural engineer. I've got a property lawyer.
All of these
designer.
Things from a person of experience, having made Aliyah in 2000, all these things are needed. 100%.
And why should you have to find out the hard way and get burnt?
Yeah, because that does happen. And I can see this hand-holding service, basically, with a smile and with the end of the phone is a huge deal. We've been here a similar amount of time. Another kind of what's the word I'm looking for? A headline about Israel is that the Israel of 2008, 2009, in terms of like products available, in terms of customer service, will agree it wasn't great. I mean, I can imagine down the years it was even worse. Talking in the Jaffa oranges days.
Yep.
But even when we came in 2009, there was limited. There was no osherad, which is the Israeli equivalent sort of Costco, sort of easy, not quite, but what I've seen is now in terms of getting stuff and product availability, Israel, you really don't have to worry about that. And what you can't get, you can ship from Amazon or whatever. Those days have gone.
Those days are gone. There's very little you can't get in Israel.
Right, and that should settle people's minds as well. No, it's important to people.
I think so. I mean, everyone complains about the cost,
right?
Especially you hear people that were here for Pesach. Israel's so much more expensive. Well, it may be a little bit more expensive, but remember, you're getting less for your pound. So although the Israel prices may have stayed the same, to you it's 10-15% more expensive now because of the currency fluctuation.
Right.
Which is always something that you need to take into account, especially if you are, a lot of olim now are working remotely, and Corona changed the Aliyah face, the realization that you can actually get the best of both worlds. You can work remotely and live in Israel, because that was the biggest fear for people. If, how am I going to earn a parnas, especially if I've got, a family.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can work remotely and come here, you can, but then you're earning in pounds, and you've got that currency fluctuation that you need to take into account, because your rent's going to be in shekels and your food bill's going to be in shekels, but you're not necessarily getting the same amount of shekels per month. So again, these are kind of things and tips,
figure out as you go
tricks
along.
that I'm helping people and guiding people with, not to stretch yourself to the limit, because you never know, on a monthly basis what you're going to get. But again, there are tax incentives for people to make Aliyah as well.
Is that 10-year thing is still exist? That
10-year tax break on passive income is still there, which is great.
I can tell you firsthand, it was a result.
Yeah,
it was great. It was great. The healthcare system. So let's talk about that a little bit. I think it's awesome.
So it is, and the NHS really does make it look so much better as well.
Right.
𝗚𝗘𝗪𝗠𝗧 here. And as I tell people, you don't need to compromise with your health, because you're going to be covered unconditionally with no previous medical conditions taken into account. There are no exclusions.
Right.
So you don't need to compromise.
Just explain to people how it works.
So there are 4 health providers. There's Maccabi, 𝗗𝗃 𝗡𝗪𝗏 𝗔𝗕𝗎, and they offer an excellent level of care. At basic level, it is a statutory requirement. They all have to offer exactly the same level of care. So it's not that one is so much better than the other. So normally I tell people, look for locality, because if there's a 𝗗𝗘𝗪𝗠, if there's a surgery at the end of your road, why do you need to get 2 buses across town?
That's right.
Especially if you're living in Yerushalayim or Tel Aviv, which is not so easy to get around if you're not feeling so well.
Right.
And also, if you need an English-speaking doctor, then go to a 𝗗𝗘𝗪𝗠. It might not be the one at the end of your road. It may be the one round the corner. So again, what your needs are. Each 𝗗𝗘𝗪, and this is where they tout for their business, have what's called supplementary healthcare, which is like an affordable private top-up. So Maccabi, there's Maccabi Bronze, Silver, Gold, and their top level is Maccabi Shelley.
That's right.
It's going to cost you an extra couple of hundred shekels a month. We're not talking thousands of shekels a month.
This is not America.
This is not America, and it's not private healthcare in the UK.
You're right.
But it's an excellent level of care. You'll get a great percentage of medication. You'll get priority bookings. You'll be able to go to an Assuta hospital to have an operation. You'll pay the difference, and depending on what level of care you're on, depending on how much the 𝗗𝗪𝗠 will put into the cost of that operation.
And I find also locally, there's available clinics, and there's just, it just seems flexible. I've never really been bothered. Obviously, there's things that have not always gone 100%. I've been with both. I've been with 𝗚𝗃𝗏, and then our GP, who's originally from Finchley. She's in 𝗡𝗘𝗪𝗠𝗥. She's in Catamon area. Even though we're not near there, we stayed with her. She changed to Maccabi. So I've experienced 2.
Right.
And I can tell you straight up, tell anyone that both have been great. Both have worked. We prefer Maccabi. It's proved itself to be a little bit better for us. But just as awesome. When I think about the days of paying Bupa and BCWA and all this lot, plus the NHS, it was like, what? But here it is simplified, I find.
And we have Terem, which is amazing emergency care.
Right.
You have Hatzalah, you have Magen David Adom. So the facilities are amazing. So one doesn't need to compromise with health, but it comes with a requirement. You need to be an Israeli resident. It's not good enough just to make Aliyah and become an Israeli citizen to be entitled to Israeli healthcare when you are in Israel. You need to be an Israeli resident, which means you need to be here more than 6 months a year, because it shows to Israel that you're here more than anywhere else in the world.
I was talking to someone yesterday on Shabbat, and he was talking about someone that he knows who's been here for years and never became a citizen and just remained a resident. Or hang on, was it the other way around? And I didn't understand why someone wouldn't do the whole thing. Why would you not do the whole? Hang on, what's the half thing? The resident or the citizen?
There is no real half thing. You can make Aliyah.
Right, which makes you what?
Which makes you an Israeli citizen.
Oh, I see.
They'll give you a 𝗚𝗘𝗪𝗠𝗧.
Okay, but not a darkon, not a passport.
Well, you have to be here long enough in order to get a passport. Right. There are certain countries where you can't have dual nationality.
Oh, I see.
Holland is one of them. So what you would need to do is renounce the Israeli part within 90 days of making Aliyah.
Oh, I see.
So that you are an Israeli citizen.
I get it now. Okay, so fine. It's all on that front. What is a successful Aliyah story?
Oh wow, there's
not specifically give me a story, but like, what is Aliyah success? What does it look like? A family are thinking about coming, or an individual thinks about coming. after they've done it, what does success look like?
Wow.
It's a pretty broad question.
Yeah.
The obvious thing is that, someone's here, they absorb, they're happy, they're glad they did it, blah, blah, blah. But there's a journey involved in that.
Look, I would like to think that...
And I think that's where you help.
Right.
From what I...
Look, the fact is that if you make Aliyah and you bring up a family here and your children get married here and you have Israeli grandchildren, that alone is a successful Aliyah story. Now, take that back a few generations and you made Aliyah after the Holocaust and you made Aliyah on your own because your whole family had been wiped out. And you married and you had kids and now you've got great-grandchildren living in Israel.
You've done something supernatural in a way.
I mean, what a story.
Yeah. And there are those stories.
There are those stories.
Right. It's not, Aliyah is not emigrating. Aliyah is emigrating plus.
It's a way of life. I mean, Judaism's a way of life, but Aliyah also living in Israel is a way of life. I mean, there's so much chesed in Israel. Prime example. On Friday, we needed some new remotes for our air conditioning.
Right.
Went to buy 3. They only had 1 in stock. How annoying is that?
Very.
But not when the person behind the till says, you know what? They're coming in on Sunday. I'll drop them into your house Sunday evening.
Yeah, it's the family thing.
It's that family. We're an out-of-the-box country.
Yeah, out of the box people, country, the lot. And
we'll do anything to help anybody. And I think since October the 7th, that's very apparent of just the amount of chesed volunteering. I've got involved now with a friend on a Sunday morning. We go out, we go down south and we muck out horses because it's a family-run business. It's a therapy business. The husband's been in the army since October the 7th.
They need help.
They need help. We go down there and it's amazing. It's great for us. It's great for them. And there are just so many opportunities and people do that. People just will do anything they can to help.
We're on the cusp of Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Day. We're coming Yom HaZikaron in like next week, and then Yom Ha'atzmaut. I mean, this is serious time at this point in history. This next week and a bit is going to be emotional.
It's going to be very emotional. It's going to be very different from any other Yom HaZikaron that I've ever experienced.
For sure.
Since we made Aliyah, and likewise, Yom Ha'atzmaut as well. It's going to be hard to celebrate, but it's important that we celebrate. We have to remember that we have a state, and it didn't come easy. It didn't come easy, but we have a state. We have one state, and it's a state that we all love, and it's a state that we all love to be part of, and we need to celebrate that, obviously in a respectful way of what's going on.
Yeah,
but it needs to be marked and it needs to be celebrated.
Mm-hmm. And just like, obviously, everyone is thinking so much about the remaining hostages. However, whoever is left, please God, all of them. But we're realistic; it's probably not. So we want them back in as soon as possible. But I've always maintained from the beginning of this that those that were fortunate enough, which is all the rest of us, basically, because let's be honest, it could have been any of us. I always said that it was them, these unbelievable people. They took the hit for the entire nation, not just Israel, but the entire Jewish people 100%. Around the world. But our job for them, in their dire situations that they've been in or that they currently are in, and may they soon be released from that, and the Chayalim, the soldiers, is we are obliged to celebrate respectfully, but we have to live. We have to continue, because that's what the point of this all is. We can't let these animals destroy what we've built and created. And I think that's the balance. Like, don't feel bad about feeling great about being an Israeli, a Jew in Israel. Do you feel similar?
100%. If anything, we need to celebrate more because we're celebrating for them as well. Agreed. And the stories you hear that are coming out of Gaza, especially, I mean, all my our social network, their kids are in. My daughter actually finishes the Navy on Thursday of this week.
Right, wow.
The stories that came out, especially over Hanukkah time, when they were lighting Chanukiot in Gaza and they were, singing and dancing. And I've also volunteered, do a lot of volunteering. We do barbecues for the soldiers. We go to different army bases, and you can see the determination in those soldiers to go in there and do what they need to do. But they're so positive and the morale is so high, and you can't help but be sucked into that positivity when you are mixing amongst those soldiers. And I think Yom HaAtzmaut, and again, Yom HaZikaron, we will stand and we will cry together.
Yeah.
And Yom HaAtzmaut, we will stand and we will sing and we will dance and be mesamech together as a nation and as a people.
This is basically who we are. It's chaval that it takes these dark moments to bring out the very best in us. I think one day we'll figure it out. But I mean, maybe this is just how it's got to be. This is a family. We have feuds, but we're together. And anyone who's had the merit to be here in this time, there's no words really. It's beyond the human experience.
Right. And in fact, I was listening to one of your previous podcasts, somebody that you were interviewing before Pesach, and they were talking about 𝗚𝗃 𝗓𝗄𝗧.
Right.
And, we sort of say it and we don't really think too much about it.
It's
Obviously,
real.
this year, it was very real.
Very real.
It was very real. But the nice thing about it is the positive outcome at the end of it. And I think that's what we got to focus on, is that positivity, the outcome, that we will survive and we will be strong and we will come out stronger.
What do you think, from your guts, is the future, let's say over the next year, 3 years, 5 years of Aliyah? Do you see a trend of people, especially in light of the current world events? Do you see a trend? Have you seen an uptick? Have you seen more of an interest? Where do you think this is going to go? And we're trying to balance this. We're religious guys, so we have our eye on the final goal of like, well, everyone's going to be here. This is our home. But down to earth, how do you feel it's going, Aliyah?
So traditionally, there's always a spike in Aliyah after a conflict, and this will be no different. Mm-hmm. There will be a spike. There will be a lot more 18, 20-year-olds that will want to come, join the army, and make their life here in Israel. Mm-hmm. There will be a lot of other people that will see that their future is not necessarily in the UK. I'm speaking for the UK, but I mean globally as well. But they won't see their long-term future in the UK, and they will start looking at how they can plan for that Aliyah, whether it's now, in 3 years, 5 years, or when they retire. Mm-hmm. So there will be a lot of that. Israel thrives on Aliyah. Aliyah has changed Israel, as you were saying, from 2008 until now. Even relatively short period of time. Yeah. It's changed because of the influx of olim from around the world. Yeah, for sure. And the different skills and professions and talents that we're bringing to the country. So I think that Israel will become a stronger country as a result of olim over the next 3, 5, 10 years. And I'm excited by the challenge of helping people fulfill and realize their dream of moving and making Aliyah.
I guess the final question is, how does doing what you do make you feel? I think it's obvious, but I'd like to hear it. Like, do you love what you do? So
I love what I do. And I think when you meet people post Aliyah, and they are so appreciative of the help you gave them. Even when I started my new business back in the summer, the messages of support that I got from people that I helped 10 years plus ago, cool, that they remember me and they, thank me, is so rewarding. It really is. Look, if I can help people be happy, and that's what it's all about. And experience what you've experienced as well, because that's why we encourage Aliyah. I remember when my 2 eldest daughters went to they got engaged, They went to the Rabbanut. And you would think that the most happiest time of their life, they're met by this somber face who's obviously been in the job for many years, and it's just another day at the office, and it's okay, sit there, wait there, sign here, go there. And like, seriously? So when people come to me and they're looking to make Aliyah, and this is like a really big deal.
Huge.
One needs to be mesameach, one needs to be really happy for them, and one needs to be so encouraging, because this is a huge move. This is the most exciting part of their life journey, one would like to think. So it's having that smile, being available and celebrating with them and helping to make that journey as easy as can possibly be. Eliminate the stresses, eliminate the bureaucracy, and just really helping them make that move. And I think that's what it's about, is putting the fun back into making Aliyah, putting the simcha back into that move.
And making it easy.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, we're unique because for thousands of years we weren't in our homeland. And what you're effectively doing is, like I said at another point in this conversation, is you're bringing people home. I mean, we say it like, oh, we're bringing people, but like, it's for a Jew, this is it. There's nowhere else to go. You add to it, but once you're home, you're home.
Right. And as I tell people in England, if you want to live in a Jewish community in the UK, you pay a premium for that. Your North West Londons, your Prestwich, you pay a premium. If you want to live in a Jewish community in Israel, you can live anywhere.
How do people get hold of you?
So my email address is dov@makealiyah.com. My website is makealiyah.com. I have a UK telephone number, 0208 150 2245. I'm always available.
Dov, it's been great to speak to you, and 𝗗𝗪𝗏 for everything you're doing. What a bracha that what you're doing is truly, as a person who's gone through the Aliyah process, which wasn't so tricky for me. I was lucky, but I can see that this is a big deal. B'hatzlacha, it should go well with a bracha, and just thanks for coming in.
Thank you.